Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. It's the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, and we've got a great program for you today and a very special guest. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio network.
Have you ever been frustrated with your bank? Denied a loan, charged excessive fees, hassled over late payments? Don't worry, you're not alone. What if you could become your own bank, set your own terms? Interest would be paid to you. All your monthly payments could be reused for other purchases. Now you can. There is a cash management system that families, business owners, and investors have used for decades, which allows you to be the bank. For a free article from our friends at Paradigm Life, visit www.beyourbank.com or call us at 1-888-510-6838, extension 116.
Welcome to the Real Estate Guys and happy April Fool's Day. I'm your host, Robert Helms. Let's meet the guys in the studio. Our co-host, financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Co-host and biggest fool.
There you go. And the man we call the godfather of real estate, he's been investing in real estate for 7 different decades. Bob Helms.
I've had a lot of experience being a fool.
Yeah, you have. This is it's lined up that our show landed on April Fool's Day, and we're a bunch of pranksters, so it's been fun around here. But we've just got a ton going on. We've got an amazing guest for you today. Before we get to that, what you've got to do to be successful is you have to get around people who think differently, who are doing better than you are. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the whole deal. You have this peer group. You become the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. As a real estate investor, you want to up your game. If I want to get better as a real estate investor, I don't want to kind of hang out with the same people that are doing the same things. I want to step up my game. If I'm in single family and I'm maybe Fannie Freddie'd out, I want to get in multifamily. I want to hang around some multifamily guys. If I want to get in commercial, I better hang around some multifamily guys. I want to hang out with guys that have more doors than I do.
You know, I'm the strategist guy, right? I mean, to me, it's just a matter of being strategic. You're born in life and you go to school and you take the classes. You go to school, whatever neighborhood you happen to live in. Some parents are really good and they move you to a good school. Sometimes you just go to whatever school. And then you hang out with whatever friends. And then you get a job at whatever company will hire you, and then you end up marrying whoever you happen to be with at the time when you're ready to get married, and none of it is really strategic. And the great news in your business career is that you can stop and you can look around and you can say, hey, I want to reinvent myself, and education is a great way to do it, but your peer group, your mastermind group, making strategic decisions that I'm going to spend more time with people who can help me and are more like how I want to be, and less time, this is the other part, this is the hard part, where you end up, I want to be away from the people who aren't helping me.
Yeah, it's what we call limited association. There's people in your life that are great people, right? They're great to have fun with and be around, but are they taking you places? So, Bob, you invested, in 7 different decades. You've been a real estate investor since before you were born, it almost seems, right? How important is it to get around people that think differently?
It's so amazing. When I think back how I did it, I've told this story many times. For the first many years, almost 20 years of my, quote, investing career, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a clue about where I was going. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't hanging around with anybody. Why is that the case? We don't know why. Luckily, that changed. Luckily, I got in an environment that got my attention, because it isn't about ability. It's urgent that you have some innate ability, but having ability isn't enough. You've got to get in that environment where something excites your imagination and you dig in and run.
You know what I think? I think that real estate investing, by its nature, kind of attracts the maverick, the person that wants to do it their way, control freaks, if you will. And this isn't a bad thing necessarily, but the big presence in real estate is the guy or the gal that knows what they want, knows what they're doing, goes after it with vim and vigor. And because of that, it means that sometimes we're hesitant to take outside counsel or to bring in team members, and there's this, who's the smartest person in the room? For me, I don't want to be the smartest guy on the team. It's quite the opposite of that. I want to, as Robert Kiyosaki would say, be the C student who surrounds myself with A students.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't know everything, especially in a world that we live in. But context is very important. Being able to see the big picture, being able to have clear vision about what it is you want to accomplish, and again, being strategic. So if you take that vision and that strategy, and then you surround yourself with people that have the technical skills to get done, and you paint that picture for them in a way that they can see it and you you give them a motivation to do it, now you can build a network. They don't have to be on your payroll to get them moving in the same direction. One of the lessons we've learned watching the Rich Dad organization is with a very small number of people, they've been able to get a message out to a very large audience. And we look at what we do with a very small team, and yet we're heard in 160 countries. Well, that's through leveraging other people's resources and not trying to be the podcast king of the world, or not trying to build a radio network. We do a show, we do content, we work through other folks.
This is huge because you don't have to know everything, do everything, be everything. In fact, the more real estate you own, the less you can do. If I own a single family house as a rental, I can, if I choose to, paint it and put a roof on and hammer and nail and all that, and manage my tenants. I can do all of that. Once I have 100 houses, I don't quite remember where they all are at.
More than that, if you have all those abilities and all those skills, the question is, what's the best use of your ability? If I can tell you one termite from another, that's really interesting academically. How does that help me as an entrepreneur go anywhere? It doesn't.
That's such a good point.
Well, I was just thinking back, my first property that I did, or the first flip that I did, or fix-up that I did, is I went down to the big superstore, and I took all the classes. I'm learning how to do tile. I'm learning how to do grout. I mean, it was good to understand some of that stuff conceptually, but I got way too granular.
Well, and I think, to your point about that, if you're the A student, if you're the left brainer, if you're the spreadsheet kind of person, you're going to pay more attention to those details. Details are important. You need to have some of that, but you don't need to know exactly which tile to put where. You need to have someone who is the best in their world, right? Passion is such an important thing, to be who you are and be something you're excited about. When your tile guy loves his job, loves his business, that's great. I mean, I'm not sure about tile, but if that's you, you're going to do a great job for me, as opposed to the guy that shows up late and goes, yeah, whatever, right? Most people who are successful are efficient and effective.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, people basically do every day what they like. And the unhappy people are the ones that put themselves in a situation where they're obligated to spend most of their time doing things they don't like. And we started off saying, hey, you can reinvent your friends. You really can reinvent your life. Somebody says, well, I have to go to work tomorrow. No, you don't. You can quit. You can go find something that you really want to do. Why spend a minute doing something with your life that you don't enjoy? And the beautiful thing about real estate, if you do it right, is you accumulate these passive streams of income that provide for you so that you can go explore those things. Some people want to get into the nitty-gritty of real estate. They love the deal making. They love shopping for properties. They like overseeing the project. They like working with the tenants. Other people are just, hey, you know what? This is not who I am, but I'm going to get good at it because it can take me where I want to go better than almost any other vehicle that I can think of.
Our guest today is someone who knows a lot about a lot of little details and manages that, but doesn't necessarily do it all. And I'm sure that'll be crystal clear by the end of the show. But to your point, if you love the part of fixing and rehabbing, awesome, right? Ever go into a craftsman home where someone has taken 2 years to meticulously maintain it and improve it? It's amazing to see that. Now, if that appeals to you, go for it. You can make a lot of money in real estate that way, but at some point, you're limited by your time. And so back to leverage, how do I take what I know and work through teams to be effective with my time? Because time is a very, very scarce resource.
And this is the generalship you talk about often. It's nice if you've got the skills. It's really a matter, though, of a macro level where you're managing all those people to get the things done that need to be done to get where you want to go.
And again, getting the full circle, getting around the right people. Here's what we've done for you for April. We're excited about this month's radio broadcast because we've got some great stuff. This month, you're going to hear from an engineer who is a trained and sophisticated and left-brain engineer who left that to become a full-time real estate investor. You're going to hear from a guy who is an analyst at banks in New York City and left that career to become a real estate person. You're going to hear in a few minutes from someone who has amazing real estate experience over time. And then, of course, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to have our show that we will record live on the 10th Annual Investor Summit at Sea. And you're going to get to hear from lots of folks who have polished their brain around other brains for the week. It's going to be extraordinary. So even though it's April Fool's Day and we're having fun with that, you should be nobody's fool. You should get as much information, get around people. And so we can do some of that for you. We'll get you around some thinkers, but you've got to go out and do it yourself. When we come back, you're going to meet a man who does a lot in terms of real estate. He's a household name. We're today, ladies and gentlemen, on our show, going to have Mr. Donald Trump on the radio show.
Right. And I am President Barack Obama.
You're not believing me. You think it's an April Fool's show? All right. Well, we'll see if it's just April Fool's and we're messing with you, or if when we come back, you're going to meet the Donald. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Live nationwide. You're listening to The Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Live where you want to live, but invest where the numbers make sense. Even better, invest where you have a solid team to support you. We've been hearing great things about Memphis, Tennessee, and Terry Kerr from Mid-South Home Buyers. Since 2002, Terry and his team have been delivering turnkey rental property solutions ideal for out-of-area real estate investors. So, if you're looking for affordable, trouble-free, turnkey investment property, call Terry. Use our resource hotline at 888-510-6838, extension 118. That's 888-510-6838, extension 118. Or find them in the resources area of our website at realestateguysradio.com.
If you're like me and thousands of others, you know that the Real Estate Guys radio show is a great source for quality content about investing in real estate. But did you know that they also have a book? I just finished reading their book, Equity Happens, and I was blown away by how much I learned. If you're ready to create sustainable wealth through real estate, you need to get Equity Happens. You'll learn, just as I did, about what it takes to prosper in the real estate industry. So don't wait. Make equity happen to you. Order your copy today at equityhappens.com.
Hi, this is Kendra Todd, winner of The Apprentice, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, the #1 downloaded podcast on real estate. It is our pleasure to introduce a man that literally needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Donald Trump. How are you, sir?
How are you?
Great, thank you. You know, it's an interesting time to be a real estate investor, isn't it?
It is. It's a great time in a certain sense because you can make deals that I don't think you could have ever made. I mean, there's some tremendous opportunities. I just bought 800 acres in Miami, Doral Country Club, which is potentially going to be fantastic. And I wouldn't have done it, frankly, 2 or 3 years ago, and now I do it very gladly.
Yeah, it's changed a bunch. Of course, you've seen a ton of change in a real estate family and being a real estate guy, although obviously the Trump brand a lot bigger than just real estate. Where do you see the opportunity is for real estate investors today?
Well, I see a lot of opportunity for going out and buying houses, but only if they're owned by banks. I think the banks, they don't give you 10 cents. They don't put up any money. They have not behaved very nicely toward house owners and homeowners, but frankly, if they have the house, they have to give you money because otherwise you're not going to buy it, and they have to get rid of them. So I'm going to be telling people, actually, when I'm in San Jose on April 10th, I'm going to be telling people very strongly exactly that. Go out and make great deals with banks to buy houses.
Yeah, we're excited. You're coming to San Jose, California for the National Achievers Congress. We had Robert Kiyosaki on the show last week, and this is going to be a great event. 3 days. You'll be there, and I had a chance to see you live several times, and I just love some of the lessons that you share, the things that that you've learned. Can you give us a couple of samples of that? Some of the things you have learned over your years as a real estate developer and investor.
Well, I think the primary things you have to look. You need to be born with intelligence. Okay, that's where the luck comes in. But after that, what you do is you have to know your subject, and you have to love your subject. You have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you'll never, ever be successful at it. So assuming you're born with a good, nice IQ, that you have an ability, in other words, you have a good brain, which, not everybody has, in all fairness, in which case I say enjoy your life and get a job, and hopefully you'll be happy. But assuming you have the aptitude to do something, you have to have knowledge, and then you have to love what you're doing.
Yeah, that's such a key point. Your book, Midas Touch, came out actually at a similar event in Australia, and that is a great topic, kind of entrepreneurism. What do you see the entrepreneur's role is in restoring America?
Well, the entrepreneur is it's such a big part of this country, and without the entrepreneur, you don't have the country the way we know it, and that's the big thing. They have to keep that spirit going, because if they take away that spirit and that incentive, this country will not be great again.
Mr. Trump, obviously your brand has an incredible life. Now, beyond real estate, all the things you're doing with the television and the list could go on and on. But definitely an international brand, and you've expanded certainly in real estate around the world. Where do you see maybe the opportunity worldwide? We've got listeners in 160 countries. What advice might you have for those folks?
Well, you can go to a lot of different places. There are a lot of boom towns and boom countries right now. If you look at China, now China is there a little bit artificially because of what they're doing to us. Their leaders are unfortunately much smarter than our leaders. So China has taken advantage of this country, but because of that, they're booming. And, I know people that are moving to China because they feel they have a great opportunity there. But I think it's much more fragile because if we ever got smart, we could take that opportunity and have it transformed into this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the National Achievers Congress is coming up in San Jose, California, April 10th, 11th, and 12th. You're going to be there. Anthony Robbins is there. Robert Kiyosaki. What should folks be expecting, and why should they come out and be at this event?
Well, they're also great guys and great speakers, and I will say that we've had some great luck with the National Achievers Congress. I was in Australia, and we did two speeches, one in Melbourne and one in Sydney, and it was a fantastic time and a great success. And I think, frankly, San Jose, I was there recently at your convention center. I spoke to a group, ACN, and it was an amazing time, and it's an amazing place. I mean, amazing what's going on in San Jose.
Yeah, Silicon Valley, the hub. Lots of great innovation there has been over the years. Now, as you sit here today, and there's folks in the audience that have been hit by tough times in the last few years. It's been a challenging economy. What words of wisdom might you have from a guy who's been through so much in business?
Well, I think it's going to get better. It's slower than it should be. A lot of people are waiting for the big decision on Obamacare. They're waiting to see what happens with the presidential race. And you have to be careful with inflation, because inflation could rear its ugly head. But, of course, real estate and inflation get along very well. If there is going to be inflation again, real estate's a great thing to own. So a lot of things are going to happen over the next 6 months, and we'll see what happens. It'll be a big determinant of what is going to happen in terms of this country.
You bet. Now, how do you see risk today? Are we at a place where it takes more sense to take on more risk, or is it time to be risk averse? What do you think there?
This is the time to start looking at risk, because if you would have asked me this question 4 years ago, I was telling people, get out, don't do it, don't buy the house. And now I'm doing just the opposite. This is really a great time to go in and take advantage of risk.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, sir. Well, we are super excited about having you come into Northern California. Again, the National Achievers Congress is coming up. When we come back, we're going to give you all the details so that you can come out and see Donald Trump live. Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners today, Mr. Trump?
No, I just look forward to the middle of April to seeing you folks, and I hope you can be there. You have a great show, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We've always had a great time, and I'll tell you, the National Achievers Congress, they really do a fantastic job. So I look forward to seeing everybody in San Jose in the middle of April.
All right, well, great stuff. We cannot wait to see you in San Jose, California, National Achievers Congress. Donald Trump, Robert Kiyosaki, and Anthony Robbins. All the details when we come back. Thank you, sir. We sure appreciate your time today. We'll see you in San Jose.
Very good.
You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, it's Robert Helms, and I've got great news. 3 of my mentors are coming to the San Francisco Bay Area for an amazing live event, and you're invited. Join Donald Trump, Robert Kiyosaki, and Anthony Robbins live and in person at the National Achievers Congress, April 10th, 11th, and 12th in San Jose, California. Go to ctrumplive.com to reserve your seat. At this incredible event, you'll learn key principles and strategies from the living legends of success. Get your tickets today at ctrumplive.com. That's ctrumplive.com. Hey, Russ, wake up. We've got a show to do.
Huh? Oh, sorry. I was just having the most awesome dream. I found low-cost rental properties that cash flow in a strong job market with prices that didn't fall through the floor during this great recession.
Wow, that is awesome. But, you don't have to dream to find a market like that. We're going on a field trip there in just a few weeks.
Really? Where are we going?
To Dallas, Texas. It's a huge market with great infrastructure and lots of people. Prices are low and rents are strong. And with today's low interest rates, properties cash flow great. And did you know Dallas is in the top 3 of all job markets? Plus, Texas is the #1 rated state for doing business.
That's amazing.
There'll be tours of different submarkets and property types and meetings with local experts, including developers, agents, and property managers.
That sounds great.
Well, hurry up and register because space on field trips is always limited. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events or call 888-GUYS-RADIO for more information. That's realestateguysradio.com or 888-GUYS-RADIO.
Hi, this is Peter Schiff, and you are listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. What do you think, guys? Donald Trump on the radio.
I want to know how you did that.
15 years, I'm telling you. What an amazing guy and a gracious and respectful man. Hey, before we talk about the amazing interview with Donald Trump, guess what? It's time to play real estate trivia. Here's how that works. We're going to give you a trivia question that has something to do with real estate. And as soon as you hear the question and know the answer, you're quickly going to fire us an email at trivia at realestateguysradio.com, trivia at realestateguysradio.com. Include your name, and this week, not your mailing address, because instead of giving you something we got to send you, we are giving you 2 tickets to the National Achievers Congress. You can go and hang out with Robert Kiyosaki, Anthony Robbins, the real estate guys, and Donald Trump. Now, here's how it's going to work. As soon as you hear the question and think you know the answer, send us an email to trivia at realestateguysradio.com. And be quick. Usually the first person in is a radio listener, but we're also reserving some tickets for the podcast listeners. So the first person with the right answer is going to get a pair of tickets. Then we've got 4 more tickets. So if you get the question right, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a couple of tickets to the National Achievers Congress in San Jose. You've got to get there from wherever you are in the world to San Jose, California. It will be worth it. First, let's talk about last week's trivia question. We gave away 5 pair of tickets last week, and we had Robert Kiyosaki on the show. Here was our trivia question. What country was Berlin part of when it passed 1 million in population? What country was Berlin part of when it passed 1 million in population? A tough question, but folks got it right. Prussia is the answer. Berlin was part of Prussia back then. Here's a question, a little bit easier question, so you're going to have to be quick. Hawaii was the 50th United State, and Alaska was 49th. I want to know which state was 48th. Name the 48th United State. Most people know that Alaska and Hawaii were the last 2. What was the one right before that? If you know or want to take a guess, quickly send us an email to trivia at realestateguysradio.com. That's trivia at realestateguysradio.com. Get yourself to the National Achievers Congress. And you can go to ctrumplive.com if you just want to ensure you've got the ticket. ctrumplive.com and learn all about the National Achievers Congress. You know, somebody with the amazing experience of Donald Trump can say so much in such a short period of time.
He is brief and to the point. You know, Robert Kiyosaki had told us that Donald Trump is very much who he appears to be on TV, you know, backstage, which, of course, we haven't spent time with him backstage, but we had this conversation with him, and yeah, he lived up to it. Direct and to the point.
Yeah, great stuff. And then, you know, you've got to be excited when a guy with that much intelligence and experience says, oh, yeah, this is the time to invest.
You know, they're so much alike in terms of both being direct, opinionated, wham, bam, right on it, no nonsense. It's not a surprise that they were attracted to each other, decided to become co-authors.
Yeah, interesting. You know, when their first book came out together in 2006, Why We Want You to Be Rich, interesting time, right? It was the real estate market kind of starting to transition, but before the mortgage meltdown, and their message was, listen, there's going to be this divide. We're going to see the upper class is going to stay, and the high-income earners are going to earn more, and the middle class is kind of working its way out. Either you're going to be at the bottom or at the top, and you better figure that out now. We want you to be rich because when you're rich, you can make a difference.
Yeah, I think the consensus we're hearing from a lot of the very successful people that we've been talking to is that these tough times are really golden opportunity for people who are going to put in the time and effort to take advantage of it. But you got to make a decision because there's this chasm opening up between rich and poor, and you're going to fall into it if you're not already rich or poor. When you crawl out of it, you've got to decide which side do you want to crawl out on. Do you want to come out and ask the government to take care of you? Do you want to come out and live to way below your with the standard of living you're accustomed to? Or are you going to reinvent yourself? Are you going to build your personal brand, your personal knowledge? Are you going to go out and build your personal network and put yourself in a situation where you can be an entrepreneur, you can be an investor, get into what Robert Kiyosaki calls the BI side of the quadrant versus the self-employed or the employee side of the quadrant? Because right now, there's not a lot of people creating jobs. The concept with these guys' book, The Midas Touch, is we need people to go out and create jobs. Why can't you be one of those people?
Well, I was just going to say, the follow-up book 5 years later is Midas Touch, which is all about empowering entrepreneurs, why most entrepreneurs actually don't succeed, and some really great stuff. Can't recommend that book too strongly. It's also a pretty quick read, and you'll get a lot of insight from both Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump, and they think differently. Why, you're right, Bob. They have some similar qualities, and they're both direct, and they're both very successful. They also think differently about the way they approach real estate and really entrepreneurship. And they have in common this amazing branding, right? So you know Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know the whole Rich Dad brand, you know the Donald and Donald Trump's brand and the success that they've had. And it's important that you figure out what your brand is. Now, we're not going to say you're going to be Donald Trump or Robert Kiyosaki or Anthony Robbins, but you've got a brand. You're somebody, and it means something.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of integrity. I mean, if you are consistent in delivering a message with the activities that you do, if what you do and what you say kind of line up, then what you say has more power. I mean, Mr. Trump said some great things, but they aren't things that, a lot of people haven't said or other people have said. That what makes it powerful is he's Donald Trump. And the thing that, I've learned just being around Robert Kiyosaki is he's a very intense man. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to do something. It's another thing to do it. It's one thing to say, hey, I care about this or I care about that. It's another thing to back it up. And I'm really learning in my own personal life, getting around guys like this, hey, if I want to get to the next level personally, I need to be a lot more about doing. Knowing what to do is great, but I need to be a lot more about doing with focus, doing with intensity, doing with purpose, and being true to my vision. I don't have to be them, but whoever I decide to be, I need to be that guy all the time, consistently, persistently, until I get to the success I want.
You start with what you're passionate about and that guy you want to be or gal you want to be, but then you start to get around folks that think differently. And just to have an opportunity to hear a few words of wisdom from Donald Trump, amazing. And it's not just somebody who's a billionaire. You can learn from somebody who's a plumber. You can learn from someone who just owns a couple of single-family houses. Whatever it is where they have an area of distinction, they have something to teach you and you have something to learn. I promise that Donald Trump knows a ton about the development and purchasing of real estate. He's probably not the guy who writes the contract. He's certainly not the guy that swings more than the first shovelful of dirt, right? So he's got to surround himself with that team, but his thinking is also influenced by the people that he spends time with.
He's got so much passion, as does Robert Kiyosaki. So they're both on a mode that's continuing. We've talked about the fact that they don't need the money. That isn't why they're doing this. As you read the Midas Touch, you see some really interesting things in there. One of the things that they start with and decry is the fact that this country and the world at large is in a different place than where it got. It got here by entrepreneurship. It didn't get here by entitlement mentality. And yet entitlement mentality is so prevalent in our country and in all the countries. They're really saying with deep passion, if we're going to get away from that, you got to take the ball, each one of you.
It was great. He also kind of did the takeaway there. Like, if that's not for you, that's okay too, right? I mean, it doesn't make you a bad person. This whole thing about being around people and the environments and associations you're with, if you want to step it up, get around people that are stepping it up. If you're cool, if everything's great, if your idea of success is a hammock on the beach, hey, no problem. Jim Rohn used to say, if I meet a guy and he tells me that the next year I'm going to go out into the forest and live off the land, and I meet him a year later and that's what he's done, he's a smashing success.
Absolutely.
He set out to do something he had his heart into. He did it. To your point, Russ, he did the thing. This is the year of doing the thing. Talking about the thing is interesting. Planning out the thing is okay, right? Arguing and discussing the thing is it, but doing the thing is where all the power is.
Yeah, it's not time to be a procrastinator. I mean, we've been very excited about the direction the real estate market have taken and all of the convergence of these different components of the marketplace right now that really create a great opportunity. The window of opportunity won't last forever. And again, one of the beautiful things we have the opportunity to do and the value that we work hard to bring you, our listening audience, is the fact that we do have the ability to reach out and get into conversations with amazing people who really have credibility, who really have wisdom, who really have experience and are willing to share that with us so that we can share it with you. I'll tell you, as great as radio is, and I love it, and as great as the podcast is, and I love it, there's a lot to be said for getting in an environment where you go, whether it's like our field trips or you go to a 2 or 3 day seminar, the National Achievers Congress. I'm excited. I remember the first time that I saw Donald Trump speak live. I saw Tony Robbins speak live. I remember the first time I saw Robert Kiyosaki speak live. And the beautiful thing is when you're sitting at home watching on your computer or you're listening on your iPod or whatever, that's great, but it's easy to be distracted. You don't have full attention. When you're in an environment and you're around other people are there that they have been attracted by the very same thing that you're there, there's an energy, there's a focus. And again, I'm kind of high on this word focus right now, but follow one course until successful, right? There's a focus and the depth of understanding and your own processing of the information takes a completely different direction when you're in the environment. If you have to get on a plane, if you have to buy a ticket, if you have to take the day off work, I would say it's worth it.
Oh, it absolutely is. And you hit on something else. These are our guys. We're talking about Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump. They demand and command attention, right? It's not because they're arrogant. They're really confident, and it's hard to sit in the room and not get inspired. You probably heard the interview with Robert Kiyosaki last week, and he said something really quickly that went by. He said, hey, yeah, you guys came out to my event. we got to spend 3 days with Robert Kiyosaki and the advisors in a backstage closed-door team environment. We were honored to be among the very few guests there. We were not part of his company. We don't have anything to do with his brand other than we like it and we like what he has to say. He felt that it would benefit us to be there, and it would be a way for him to hold everybody accountable to people like us who are promoting his brand and happy to do so. But I'll tell you, spending that personal time and really getting it, I mean, this guy didn't have to spend 3 long days with the passion he has for the stuff we talked about, and he did. And there were less than 50 of us in the room. Now, contrast that to San Jose, where there'll be thousands of people in the room. All that matters is you and them. And the energy that they create is just going to, build you up and make it part of the positive experience. But if you go and you get the message, it's the most astounding thing. 2 strangers sitting next to each other at a seminar. The same words are said. One person goes, yeah, I've heard this all before. The other person says, wow, I'm going to change my life.
That's my story. I don't know if you were pitching that to me, but that is absolutely positively my story. I hear Robert Helms on the radio. I sign up for a seminar. I go to the seminar. I'm in the environment. I'm sitting there. I'm sitting next to another guy in the same business with the same vision and ambition as me, building a mortgage company. I see gobs of opportunity. I see huge talent. I see an opportunity to add value and get into a relationship. He saw problems. He was critical of the things that weren't going right. He saw those as mistakes, as not getting value for his seminar dollar. I saw it as an opening to come in and add value, which I did. And I just sat down in an interview with Donald Trump, going on a cruise for a week with Robert and Kim Kiyosaki. I get to hang out in his boardroom. The amazing things. My life changed that day. I didn't know. I'd been to a lot of different seminars. This wasn't the biggest. It wasn't the most expensive. It wasn't the fanciest. It wasn't the best, because it wasn't about the content or the message. It was about the people in the room. And when I met Robert Helms, my life changed. And you never know when that day is going to happen to you. But I'll tell you what, I always say this, it isn't going to happen if you're sitting at home, right? You got to get out there. I just can't stress that enough.
All right, and I appreciate that. When we come back, you're going to meet the brand new co-host of the Real Estate Guys radio program. Okay, that is an April Fool's. This is the Real Estate Guys radio network. Stay with us.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
As investors survey the country for markets and properties that will perform well for them over the next 5 to 10 years, one market in particular stands out. That's Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta was the second fastest growing MSA throughout the last decade. It's home to the world's busiest airport and has one of the highest concentrations of Fortune 500 companies in the country. Atlanta is expected to add 100,000 new people every year for the next 10 years, and just next year alone, Atlanta is predicted to add over 50,000 new jobs. Now, what if I told you you could buy fully renovated, leased, and cash-flowing investment properties in this market for half of replacement cost? That's right, 3 and 4 bedroom homes in good suburban neighborhoods that can be purchased completely renovated for $70,000 to $90,000. At Georgia Residential Partners, this is exactly what we do. We've been helping investors all over the country make solid real estate purchases in Atlanta for almost 7 years. Call us today at 770-924-5450 or check us out online at gainvesting.com.
Hi, this is Kim Kiyosaki. I'm the author of Rich Woman, and you are listening to The Real Estate Guys.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Heard every weekend on this great radio station all the time at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for spending your April Fool's Day with us. If you're listening to the podcast, well, it's maybe a day or two later, but we sure had some fun and got the Donald in on the joke. Hey, it's April Fool's Day, so we're gonna tell him you're on the air, and let's hope you show up. And of course, he's such a man of honor. He did.
He is. That's one of the other great comments that I've had the opportunity to hear from Robert Kiyosaki is he talks about Donald Trump, says he's one of the most respectful men he knows. And I consider Robert Kiyosaki to be one of the most respectful men we know. You'd expect these guys to be kind of prima donnas. They're intense and they're demanding, but not in a prima donna way. They don't want to be catered to. They're on a mission and don't get in my way. I've got things to do. If you add value, if you have something useful to say, I mean, think of all the things Donald Trump could have done with 10 minutes of his life.
Right.
Right? And he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the exposure. He they're on a mission. They see what's happening in the world and in America in particular. They're on a mission. They're trying to get the message out through any means possible. We're very honored and humbled that they chose to use, our little podcast as an opportunity to get their message out. That's fabulous.
And the event's going to be fabulous as well. So make sure you head over to ctrumplive.com and come on out. If you have to get on a plane, do it. If you have to save bus fare, do it. Get in front of these guys and let their words of wisdom and years of experience soak into your brain and your heart and your soul.
The story Russ just told you is so great when you're thinking about envisioning going to that, because if you stay home, what will happen? Probably nothing. You really don't know what will come of being there, but what you can be sure of is if you don't give yourself the opportunity, you'll never know.
You can't script the thing, right? I mean, I couldn't have script meeting you. I couldn't have script meeting Robert Kiyosaki. You can't go, that stuff just happens. Who you are in the world, and it gets back to what we started the show with. You need to have a passion. It's clear to everybody if you dig what you do. It's clear. There is no secret that Donald Trump really, at his heart, is passionate about what he does. His brand is about being the best. He takes that very seriously, which is why he pays attention to detail. You get these folks that come on Celebrity Apprentice who are stars in their own right, and they're intimidated by this guy. I got to tell you, in 15 years of doing interviews, we got the call. I'm like, I'm a little nervous. This is the Donald, right? I mean, I've interviewed a lot of folks. So I had a chance to interview Steve Forbes and Larry King and really, amazing folks. You too. And now here's the Donald. What am I going to say? What if I flub my lines? And you know what? You got to be who you are and be in the moment.
Yeah, he is really a bigger than life personality. So it's exciting to just have a chance to be a part of it. And again, I just encourage everybody, because the whole thing about encouraging people to go see a guy like Donald Trump doesn't pay us anything to do that, right? It's just, we believe what we're saying. I hope that's coming through, because we really see from the people we're spending time with that now is the time. And you don't want to be sitting around thinking about it. Get in the mix, get in the game, get your head engaged. There's a lot of great information out there. It doesn't cost a ton of money, but you got to take advantage of it. We hope you do it. We're going to be there. And we look forward to seeing you there. Come by and say hi.
Yeah, there's so many things you can do with your time, but you'd expect it's an investment, right? I'm going to invest 3 days. I want to get a return on that investment. All you need is one idea. All you need to do is meet one person. All you need is one paradigm change in the way that you approach business or real estate or think, and it will be worth every single minute you've spent, every dollar you've spent, all the time you put into it, if you come with that attitude. Now, if you show up and you go, okay, what are they going to sell me? And you got your arms crossed, and you're like, yeah, okay, great. Then everybody's chanting, Trump, Trump, as they often do when he comes out, right? We were at an event where they were chanting for 5 minutes, and you got guys down going, oh, come on, get on stage. I'm like, you know what? This is part of the energy. This is a respect for who this guy is. And that day, he said some things that we have just little nuggets that have changed the way we've thought.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm just looking through my notes from the interview, and he said, be careful with inflation, but real estate is great to own in an inflationary environment. Okay, well, if it's all you took from the interview, and you said, I'm going to study that. I'm going to try to understand what inflation is, what causes it, where it comes from, is it happening? And I'm going to try to understand how real estate reacts in that type of environment. Is what he's saying right? Does it make sense to me? And if you just took that one sentence and really worked it, and he's right, and you bought real estate 10 years, 20 years from now, it could change your entire life. That one little nugget of wisdom, if you're willing to do your homework.
When you're passionate about these things, they kind of consume you. You think about them all the time. I'm thinking about my day yesterday. I took 2 airplane flights yesterday. On each of the 2 flights, I engaged in a long conversation with the poor rascal next to me about real estate. And while I'm waiting between the 2 flights, I got into a conversation with a developer builder who wanted to buy some apartments. Your passion is who you are.
Boy, you're sure lucky to meet those kind of guys, Bob. I guess you got to get out in the world to do it, and you got to be willing to talk and get around the right people, which is kind of our message today. Hey, big thanks to Mr. Donald Trump and the Trump Organization for supporting the show. Get out to the National Achievers Congress. It happens April 10th, 11th, 12th in San Jose, California. Go to ctrumplive.com to get your tickets. Next week on The Real Estate Guys, we're going to talk about how you match up who you are as an investor with an actual real estate market. We've got an awesome guest next week, too. This is going to be our theme for April, is getting around the right folks. Thanks to Salem Communications in Orlando, Florida, for hosting us today. They've just been awesome here. Thanks to the folks in our resource center for making our show possible. And to Bill and Pete, thanks for having us. We'll be back. Until next week on The Real Estate Guys, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Texas Investor Homes. Discover high-yield, low-risk, double-digit cash on cash returns through interim construction funding. Hassle-free cash flow investing, creating cash flow opportunities for real estate investors with brand new single-family homes in Dallas, Texas. Corporate Direct, asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys radio show.